Thanks for tuning in. I'm Felipe Pacheco along with my co host Adam Burke. Today, we're on our second part of our conversation with Neosystems. We have Stuart Utkin, CMO of Neosystems, and Brad Mitchell, CEO of Neosystems. And we're excited to continue the conversation. If you haven't checked our previous episode we released a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about their transition from their data centers into Azure, what led to that decision, what alternatives did they consider, why did they feel it was the right point for their organization and for their customers and what they do. Today, we'll continue to talk about those learnings as well as their perspectives for the future.
Yeah, thanks, Fede. So, Brad and Stuart, thank you again for spending the time with us. You know, one of the things, and a key reason we have this podcast is really to try and share our learnings with the broader Microsoft ecosystem, especially those that are in the hybrid cloud hosting community, managed services. There's a variety of names for it, but essentially folks that are providing services for customers around IT, right? And um, you all, I think, are a great partner for the community to learn from for a number of reasons. One, you are, successfully through a key portion of, I think, a transition, but still on that journey where you have more customers that you're looking to kind of move into Azure. You've already moved a number of customers into Azure thus far. You also are a partner that works with us across a variety of programs. And so, in terms of complexity, I think you guys deal with a lot there where you're not just working with Microsoft, through one of our programs that allows our partners to transact Azure, but actually multiple. And so it would be great if you could just share a little bit about that and then maybe kind of layer in like what have you learned so far? And then is there anything you'd share with the community that maybe you wish you knew a bit earlier?
Yeah, happy to do that. So we kind of mentioned last time in the last part of this podcast that Neosystems has been a Microsoft partner for a number of years. I took over the role of president and CEO of Neosystems fairly recently, about little over a year ago. And one of the first questions I kind of started asking is, well, why haven't we expanded this Microsoft partnership? Kind of naively, because I didn't know, was there room to expand it or kind of what was involved there? And again, Neosystems being so government contracting focused, and we knew that Microsoft had, government clouds, we started kind of poking around there, and Stuart and others had some contacts within Microsoft already and was reaching out to them. And we came across the Agreement for Online Services Government, which we knew existed for a number of years, AOSG in short term, that allowed license and Azure reselling to government contractors. So we, really kind of, I think maybe earlier in Neosystems history, we might have tried to pursue that. Maybe it was a little daunting for some people, but we definitely pressed forward, moving forward with that. And within, I don't know, Stuart, 4 or 5 months, we actually got accepted into the AOSG program. And then subsequent to that, we wanted to look at, okay, well, we really want to be able to provide services to our customers across the range of solutions. Some of our government contracting customers might want to be in a commercial cloud or the government cloud or the government high cloud. So not only CSP and kind of making sure that relationship was up to snuff, but CSP Gov, which allows us to interact with GCC High with kind of the next logical step of that. So I can keep throwing acronyms around, right? But I think really at this point, we're kind of into every partnership program that makes sense for us as a provider to government contractors.
Yeah, and AOSG, I think, has huge implications for us in being able to, again, address the needs of companies within the defense industrial base that have special requirements for data sovereignty, data residency, those sorts of things. And being able to have access to those Microsoft products, but also to have access to them on the basis of a partner who not only has, again, pricing benefit, but I think more than anything, the support that we've been able to get in addressing the needs of those clients has been tremendously important to us.
So I think you've hinted at our next question a little bit throughout our whole conversation so far. But just to talk about the specific motions or programs or teams that you went to, how has the Microsoft team supported Neosystems throughout this transition?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, we talked about in the last version of this podcast a little bit about one of our decisions to go with Microsoft was the people that we interacted with there were responsive. They could talk government contracting speak. And I got to say, everything we needed to know when we had questions about Microsoft, we were able to get someone on the phone. I mean, how rare is that these days, right? Especially at Microsoft, where I'm sure you guys are working all kind of crazy hours like we do to take the time to talk to a partner. It's not generating revenue or something like that. We never didn't get someone on the phone when we needed assistance. And I'm even talking things as like when we were accepted to the AOSG program, how do we transact there? How do we report to Microsoft that this customer is now generating revenue through that program via NeoSystems? We could get people on the phone that guided us through that. How do we order with the CSP program? We literally got a Microsoft person came on the phone with us and did a transaction with us to show us exactly the nuts and bolts of how that works. And then even to some of the technical solutions that we provide for customers. I talked about Azure Virtual Desktops, I think, in the last version of this podcast, which is a solution where some portion of a customer's workforce can virtually log into machines that are in Microsoft Azure through AVDs, Azure Virtual Desktops. We have some customers that want to have ultimately 1,000 users that are using AVDs. And so there's a thing called auto scaling where if only 5 people are in, the customer doesn't want to pay for 10 different AVD machines, right? We want to shut those down so they're not being charged. But then when it's the peak of the workday, we want to spin them up so that we can accommodate new users coming in. Microsoft was right there with us. I myself was on a technical call where they were walking us through, well, we did this for, a Department of Defense agency for 10,000 users. Here's how we did it. This is the way you want to do it. Here's the tools you want to use. I mean, really just every step of the way. I can't compliment enough the feedback and the down in the weeds technical assistance that we got every step of the way from Microsoft.
And there's the other side of it as well, and the go-to-market support that we've had as a partner. I mean, obviously, we're all concerned about building our businesses, Microsoft as well as NeoSystems. And on the go-to-market side, when we asked how is it we can become a more effective selling partner with Microsoft, we got help in terms of being introduced to how we can use the marketplace more effectively, how we can use the partner portal more effectively, understanding such things as how we align with Microsoft solution plays, how we qualify for the appropriate solution designations, how we take advantage of incentive programs, and certainly the help that we got in kind of putting us on the road, and we're still on this journey to be able to become a better selling partner with Microsoft, but certainly the help that we got to get started on the journey and that we continue to get is in some respects as important as the technical support we've been getting from Microsoft.
I'm glad to hear that the experience has been overall positive, and I think we are super excited about the new things that we can do together as you kind of have gone through this evolution. Brad, you kind of touched on it very high level, I think, and maybe even in the intro in kind of the first episode. But what are your thoughts on kind of the growth opportunity for NeoSystems after going through this type of transition?
Well, I think we're seeing like a lot of software vendors facing the same kind of compliance challenges that we are. So we have a lot of companies coming to us now because we had a compliant data center, right? We did get FedRAMP ready, authorized in that data center. And we're able to host applications that are compliant for a lot of our clients. We're seeing a lot of other software vendors now who didn't take that kind of step initially and now are kind of confused how to even move forward, come to us and say, well, you guys obviously know how to do this. And now you've moved to Azure and you're doing it there. I don't even understand how to do it, let alone do I want to make the investment to do it. Can you guys help us? And I don't know if it's appropriate to name drop, but several ERP system vendors, not insignificant ones, came to us with this exact requirement. We don't want to make the investment in becoming FedRAMP and CMMC compliant. You guys obviously know how to do this. You're doing it with Azure now. So we got that brand name. Help us move down that path.
And as we said, I think in the earlier session, I mean, the government regulations are just continuing to mount. The requirements for handling sensitive information are right now being addressed in a pending FAR rule that are going to make these more stringent requirements of the NIST 800 171 standard, not just a DoD requirement, but a pan-government requirement. Concerns about zero trust and being able to implement zero trust architectures. Again, these are the types of things that that we're seeing come across, and are being able to leverage the Microsoft investments to be able to provide solutions that address these compliance requirements, that address these architectural requirements. I think will absolutely have a huge impact on our business going forward. I mean, I think if anything, and I think Brad, you'd admit this, we're kind of surprised by the number of companies that have come to us since they became aware that we're doing Azure hosting, and especially since we can transition VMware instances of saying, hey, can you help us do this? This is a direction that makes sense for us as well.
Yeah, and it's great to hear you say that because I think it hits on a theme that we have seen around this transformation. That sometimes partners are concerned of the kind of the gross margin impact that they will see when they pivot from kind of running in a data center to Azure. I think one, that's not always the case. I think sometimes partners make kind of an apples to oranges comparison. But the other thing that is a common thread that I think is, I would say, universally agreed upon by every partner I've engaged with is how much more opportunity comes when you're in Azure, because the addressable market is so much bigger there for folks looking for solutions there, and so it's great to see that you're really kind of realizing that benefit now. Um, I know we've talked broadly about the partnership, but I know as we kind of get to the closing part of the conversation, is there any other ways that the Microsoft partnership has been important to your business?
So, Stuart, I was thinking you might be a good one to start this one out, right? As the CMO.
Well, I think that I mean we look at kind of the commitment to the future, and everybody talks about how good of a crystal ball they have. I've always thought that a leader isn't somebody who is able to kind of follow, but a leader is somebody who kind of takes the market to where it's going, is taking technology where it's going, and Microsoft is clearly that leader. It's not a matter of where it's going; it's a matter of where Microsoft is taking things. And for us to be able to kind of be along on that ride is really important to ensure that we're not only offering cutting edge technology, but the ability to offer cutting edge solutions to our customers, being able to leverage the capabilities of Copilot. And we're anxious to see Copilot in the GCC and the GCC High environment, looking at enhanced requirements for data governance and data management, and looking at the Purview suite and so forth, are all things that that become increasingly important to us. And these are all things that without this partnership, we'd probably be investing in independently. And being able to leverage the investments that Microsoft is making really gives us the opportunity to kind of make investments in our own value add, those things that make us special and distinct, while we take advantage of those things that Microsoft is able to provide to us.
Yeah, I gotta emphasize what Stuart's saying. I completely agree with that. As a mid-sized business ourselves, right? I can't have a huge, broad skill set to operate from, right? The things that other people are going to do better, like hosting servers in Microsoft Azure, not having to worry about our own data center and maintaining it. That's not where we need to spend our money or resources. We need to do it on the areas where we can make government contractors compliant with government regulations. We have the experts on our staff to do that, and that's where the focus needs to be. So anywhere we can leverage outside partners, Microsoft especially, in collecting, processing all the data that we need, we're going to, of course, do that.
And we have one more question before we wrap up, but I do want to highlight, because I think one of the biggest problems that I personally have when you do a biography, right? In this case, it might be the Neosystems biography, is that it all seems so simple, right? You're like, oh, this this person, you really, changed the world, and it makes it so simple because you're just reading the book. You're not really like going through the struggle and all the thoughtful decisions that you made and navigating through the complexities. Even, as Microsoft, we recognize, the fact that we can serve so many industries and sectors means that, the decisions are not necessarily, low hanging fruits. You mentioned a lot of escalation calls or support calls, right? That you thankfully got the answers, but they were needed. And now you're on the other side. So let's just take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate that, because you've already hinted at how that's given you a competitive advantage in your market and in your industry. And it's well earned. That's the one thing that, we want to make clear. It's not something that, it just happens by listening to 40 minutes of NeoSystem's story. And also we're really glad, I think in principles that we align, as you mentioned, the concerns of your customers, how well they align with our Secure Futures initiative, and how, we make it a priority to make sure we're serving now our joint customer well. So yeah, kudos to you. We really celebrate your accomplishments, and of course, we benefit. It's a partnership, so it's a win-win for us. And you've talked a lot about the possibilities of the future, but we do want to ask you this last forward-looking question: like, of all the things that you mentioned or could mention that are possible now in this new reality for NeoSystems, what are you most looking forward to?
I think I can put that answer pretty succinctly, Fede and Adam, is what Microsoft has really allowed us to do in a nutshell is focus on where our expertise really is and should be, which is addressing the needs of our clients. And the things that we don't need to worry about, Microsoft has our back on. It really is that simple to a large extent.
And I'd add, the relationship, and you mentioned the word, Fede, it's a partnership. A lot of people throw the word partnership around. We have partnerships with other companies where, we're simply a customer, they're simply a vendor. This really is a partnership. It's a partnership in working to help us bring our capabilities to market, to improve our capabilities, but it's also a partnership in addressing the broader needs of the market. As I said, we've sat in the same meetings with Microsoft representatives, with the Department of Defense, with other government agencies, listening to the needs of small and medium businesses, recognizing that those are only going to be solved through the collaboration of cloud service providers and managed service providers, and a commitment to working towards get together. And I think that element of the partnership is going to really inform the future in a big way, in terms of our really being able to bring products and solutions to market that, again, address the usability, the cost, and the compliance requirements of companies that serve the government, but especially the small and medium size suppliers that kind of are the predominant number that are out there.
Awesome. Well, Stuart, Brad, we couldn't thank you enough for taking the time, reflecting on your success and your learnings, and sharing it with our partner community that continues to grow, because you're helping us foster it even further.
Really appreciate your time today as well. Thank you, guys.
Great. Absolutely. No, we appreciate the opportunity to tell our story. Obviously, we're quite excited about it.
Yeah. And we wish you all the success and continue to thrive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you all, and excited to see kind of what the future holds here with 2025.
Very good.
Agreed. Thank you.
And for our listener, stay tuned and subscribe. We have a 2025 full of new opportunities, new capabilities, maybe even new solutions for your organization. We have more stories like the exciting story of NeoSystems coming your way, and we're looking forward to sharing those with you in the upcoming weeks. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Stay tuned for more insights and stories from Microsoft's data center optimization team. Be sure to stay connected at dco.microsoft.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.